talking with someone who I regularly talk with on his daily show called The Damage Report on the Young Turks. He's so great. I think he probably has had no sleep. Please welcome John Iadarola.
How's it going, Francesca? Good to talk to
you. Thank you for being here.
Glad to be here. I wanted to mix up my day. I've been talking for 24 hours straight, so why not do a little bit of talking? Let's talk. I've enjoyed the show so far.
Oh, thank you. You've been listening very patiently for a little bit. John, what's broken? Tell me, what's happened?
Everything is broken. Wherever you're watching this, look around at America around you, and it's fundamentally broken in a lot of different ways. Our political structures, our norms, our hopes and expectations for our fellow citizens, those are all shattered, even if Biden wins, which is looking more likely. That's the good news. Still broken, though. We'll still be a failed state, even if Biden ekes it out.
I don't know why I was surprised by this, but after all this talk from a lot of media outlets of like, we know we're not going to know the results election night, everyone just started piling on, calling states and just like, oh, we know. And like an hour before they were like, there are millions of ballots still coming in and being counted and da da da. And then it's like, oh, we got to announce it. Yeah. Why can't we just learn to wait?
No, we can't. No, we can't. I spent the last few weeks on my show just constantly talking to my audience and saying, okay, we have got an agreement, right? We're not going to lose our stuff on election day. And everybody on either side of the camera, them and me, said yes, but we all had our fingers crossed behind our backs. We all knew that there was a small chance of a landslide. Maybe it was 5%, maybe it was 10%. But then as the day went on election day, we all acted as if, no, it was guaranteed and now we've lost it. Oh my God. Florida's going red. And I found myself shocked that Florida went red, even though I predicted on my election pool that it was going red. And I've never not been disappointed by Florida. Why was I so shocked on the day of? Texas didn't flip blue. I don't know why I thought it might. But so I think that we caused a lot of the anxiety for ourselves. We knew how the votes were going to roll in. They're doing that. On the other side, we knew what Trump's strategy was going to be, his non-electoral strategy, his judicial strategy, and he's rolling that out as well. We don't yet know who's going to win, but all of this has been scripted. We're still on script so far.
I know. Tell me when we're off script. Tell me when we could just vamp. I want to know, in terms of the lack of a landslide, what are your thoughts? Why wasn't there a landslide? Do you think the Biden campaign was even campaigning for a landslide? It's hard to imagine you wouldn't be campaigning to win very hard, but that's what it feels like. Tell me.
Look, it is going to take a while for us to know enough to know who wins, and even longer to really be able to start digging into where were the successes, where were the failures. There are both. There are going to be a lot of fundamental failures. In your last block, you talked very importantly about one of those areas. I had Chuck Rocha on my show multiple times. He was just screaming from the rooftop for Biden to do what he needed to do. And it turns out Biden didn't really for that community. But that said, it looks like Arizona is going to be flipped. There are lessons there, obviously. They don't necessarily all really have to do with Joe Biden. I think that activist organizations are going to be owed a lot of credit for that. Even if he wins in Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, you've got a lot of activists on the ground who don't necessarily agree on a lot of issues with Joe Biden, who will have made that possible. But there are areas, even in Ohio, which he lost, where he was beating Hillary Clinton by a significant amount. There are lessons to be learned there. But he might win. But as you said, we didn't get the landslide, and the landslide isn't important in terms of determining who becomes president, but it's important for all these other reasons contextually around American society and politics over the last 4 years. I think it would have reassured a lot of people who are invested a lot in politics, a lot of regular Americans, a lot of people around the globe, that Trump was some sort of aberration. Even if he wasn't, it would have let us think, maybe we're not terrible. Maybe we're not a terrible people, but we are in a lot of ways. A lot of us are really bad, and it's going to be tight. He's going to win. Biden is going to win the popular vote over Trump. Not just, the worst person to be president, the biggest failure to be president, all of that. An epic failure. The gap, percentage-wise, is going to be exactly Obama's win over Romney, basically.
Right.
Nothing matters, really. That's an issue, I think.
We can't have anything nice, but in some ways it's a sobering outcome of, yes, this is the country that elected Donald Trump. Yes, this is the country where now more voters did vote for Donald Trump than they did in 2016, because that's what happens when you get out the vote. Some people are going to not necessarily vote Democrat, and Republicans have to remember that when, when we get out the vote. What does it say about Democrats? I mean, it's sort of this. Yeah. What do you think it says about, and I want to sort of pivot to the House, right? Here's a place where we didn't think the Democrats would lose seats. We, in fact, thought they would gain seats. It turns out they did lose. They've maintained control over it. What is your assessment on that front?
I mean, look, my assessment probably isn't going to surprise a lot of people that watch your show or watch my show, but the Democratic strategy is largely a failure, and it's not a new failure. They were following with Biden a variation on the strategy that they've run in any number of Senate contests, any number of presidential elections. It was the Clinton strategy. Biden will have benefited from the fact that he won't be the target of a little bit of the baked-in hatred for Hillary Clinton, the misogyny and things like that.
Yes.
But the idea that it's, like the Republicans aren't really that bad. I mean, Trump's a bit wacky, but we can work together and nothing really has to change. That message has just been woven through everything that Joe Biden has done. Yes, he's more progressive than he used to be. He presented a policy platform that was more progressive than Hillary Clinton, but there was always going to be a lot of suspicion about to what extent he actually believed any of that. And his ability to really get people fired up and, wanting to vote for something rather than against something, it just isn't really there. And it's this like ad dominated, political, like contractor dominated, you just have to sort of narrowly eke out a win against the progressive in the primary and then just don't rock the boat and hope that the Republican, I don't know, says the N-word on video or something. It's that sort of strategy.
Yeah.
And it came really close with Trump. He hasn't yet been filmed saying it, but I'm sure he has. That's not a positive strategy. That's not, the times where the Democrats have won big, like with Clinton, like with Obama, especially the first time, those were different sorts of candidacies, even if in the end the policy sort of ended up moving back towards the Democratic mean.
Sure.
They were presented differently in terms of the campaign. And if the Democrats truly want to win in a way that not only delivers the White House, but also creates a durable lead in the House and the Senate, they need something like that. And they have it waiting in the wings with AOC as well as others. Just the pit in my stomach right now is largely about the fact that I know they're already looking to ways to try to stop her in the future, to try to make it sure that AOC doesn't become the candidate someday. They want whoever it is, to be the next Biden.
Yeah.
And that is going to lead to a lot of really close, tense elections.
Absolutely. You're going to take you already sidelined the most popular politician in this country, Bernie Sanders. I have no doubt that the Democratic Party will absolutely try and sideline the second or now first most popular politician in the entire country, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We had Jamal Bowman on earlier, who basically said that Bernie would have won. And, maybe, look, I actually happen to agree. I think that we would have known by now, specifically the states that Bernie was very strong in, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, that are now a little bit more squeakers for Biden. Mm-hmm. But we've also, and I've said this on Newsbroke a lot, and I said it in the very beginning of this election cycle, was that, in order to defeat Trumpism, you need a vision, you need a plan, right? And that all the campaigns you mentioned, Obama had a vision, right? Even if it was just change, there was a vision there. And going back to normal, and I'm not that guy, it failed in 2016, and man, it is hanging on by a thread in the year 2020.
Yeah, and if it's so the vision of, hey, you won't have to deal with this guy anymore, that was going to be baked into literally any candidate. Making it the focus of your campaign doesn't really make a lot of sense. Thank God Trump was as bad as he was and that it was so on display. It was a little bit harder for Hillary to run based on that. Biden has 4 years of us being constantly horrified by Donald Trump's statements and actions. So that helped him out a little bit, but that's not how you gain enough power to actually put forward some sort of bold agenda and get it passed. Although, to be fair, the Democrats don't really have that. So I guess they don't need a supermajority because they don't want the supermajority because then the onus is on them to act. They don't want to act. I hate the idea of Joe Biden winning the presidency, but the Senate staying with the Republicans, because it means effectively that we still have nothing for the next 4 years that doesn't have to do with executive orders. But
Yeah.
some Democrats in the Senate are probably, they don't not necessarily mind that much because they're perfectly comfortable just wasting the next couple of years, not passing anything, raising a bunch of money, and then, getting reelected, I guess, to continue to do nothing for a while.
Susan Collins, did she win? She won. This is like, that's all you need to know. Susan Collins of Maine won her reelection. I mean, she was so ready to retire. Let's be real. She was like, I'm on my way out. Goodbye. And my God. I mean, to be fair, if Biden does win, I guess someone like Susan Collins, who's been waffling, might be a good thing. I don't know. Rather than, there are worse Republicans out there, but it's just like, yes, my faith in Americans has gone down. Okay, before you go, John, I want to show you this because every once in a while Fox News does these graphics that they don't know they're doing, and their graphics department, I believe we've talked about, is secretly starting an insurgency against their right-wing agenda. But this was yesterday. Jesse Waters played this graphic and sort of reminded Americans that we aren't actually all that divided when it comes to the issues. Take a look.
We have some breaking election news as results are starting to come in now from our Fox News voter analysis election survey. And you're going to see that on the side of your screen over there. It's a breakdown of all the data from the 50 states to help explain who's voted and why they voted and the way they did. And it shows us what issues are the most important to voters. And we're going to update that information all night. So, Dana, it is, I guess, not traditional to have, I guess, the entire ticket out there in swing states campaigning on Election Day. What does that tell you?
Well, I think that the Democrats, we talk about bedwetters, right? They are, they're soaked.
How you doing over there, Juan?
I mean, I can't imagine being somebody on the Biden campaign that has to take the phone calls from everybody calling, the columnists and the county chairman calling, is everything okay? I'm hearing that's not okay.
Okay, for those of you who are watching, you should have been paying attention to the right-hand column. I didn't set this up exactly right, but you probably caught on pretty soon. Overwhelming majority of, this is Fox voter analysis, and they're polling, overwhelming majority of Americans want to keep Roe v. Wade, believe we should do something about climate change, believe we should expand Obamacare, believe there should be some sort of government subsidized medicine. What else was there? It was the entire list of issues that we all know most Americans agree on. John, do people just still think Trump might deliver on those things? Or how do we square this?
I think that, look, that there were the policy specific things. There were even more general questions like, should the government do more or do less? And they're like, do more. No, we generally just want them to do more. And Jesse Waters did a great job of teeing those graphics up and then trying his best to pretend that they weren't there. I think that those are things that can drive a vote, but if you don't have a very clear contrast of somebody who is against those things and someone who is equally strongly for those things, they're not the only thing that causes someone to vote a particular way.
Yes.
And so it's not that Biden wasn't more for those things than Trump. He almost certainly was in almost all of those categories, if not all. But he wasn't running the campaign that really centers them, that communicates well around them, that would have made it obvious for voters that this is our guy on all of these. And so they turn to other things. A lot of voters, like, they might have a preference on a policy, but they're voting based on white identity politics. That's most of Trump's base, is just white identity politics from floor to ceiling. And you don't have, the Democrats could have run a candidate like Bernie Sanders, who would have focused on every one of those issues constantly, but they didn't do that. And so the joke is on Fox News to some extent with those graphics, but it's also on the Democratic Party. It's a reminder that we have a platform that the people support, but that our leaders choose not to run candidates based on.
John Iadarola of the Damage Report. I just want to make a plug for progressive media, outlets like AJ Plus, Newsbroke, the Damage Report. It seems like these are the hard truths that never break through to the mainstream media. And we wish they will. We wish they do. We want John Iadarola on MSNBC. And yes, thank you so much for your time. Everyone, please listen and watch the Damage Report every day. I'm on Mondays. It's so good. It's so fun. And John, take care. We'll be watching you tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.